All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar for Prepare Today with your FCERA retirement benefit. My name is Jared Wong. I'm the communications analyst here with FCERA. Happy to be here with you this afternoon. Since it's about 12:01, I'm going to just give it just a little bit of time here, just for a couple more people to kind of just funnel in here to the webinar. Couple of things really quickly here. I have a presentation prepared for you guys to kind of give you an idea of your retirement benefit and then how that affects you and your beneficiaries later on in the retirement process. And then I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to ask that in that live Q&A box there. It should be on the right-hand side there. You can just type your questions in there at any point during the presentation, and I'll answer them either after the presentation or as we go if they're applicable to what I'm discussing at the time. So this isn't a really super long presentation, but like I mentioned, happy to answer any questions that you may have. So let's give it just another couple of seconds here, see if we get a little bit more people funneled in here. And okay. All right, so I guess then we will just get started here. So before we get started to like the more details about your retirement, there's some questions I just came up just to kind of ask yourself. When you're thinking about preparing yourself for later on in life and preparing for everything, do you know how your FCERA benefit works? Do you know what type of retirement benefit you have as county employees? Have you even started planning or even just looking at this, understanding like what you want your future to look like, things like that? And then just ask yourself, like, why plan early? Well, you plan early, you can achieve your goals of what you want to achieve, but also you're not caught by any surprises or anything toward later on in life. So it's always good to plan early, and that goes on with not just with your retirement, but with anything in life, really. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about first, before we kind of get into the main thing about like, hey, what happens or what your beneficiaries can receive as far as your retirement is, well, let's talk a little briefly about what your actual retirement benefit is from FCERA. What your pension benefit is. So the type of benefit that you get from FCERA, from us as a county employee, is called a defined benefit plan. Now, what this means is this is a lifetime benefit to you, meaning that when you retire and meet the minimum requirements for retirement, you'll get a payment from us every month for the rest of your life. Now, how this retirement benefit is calculated is based on specific factors. So we look at your tier level of membership classification. So if you're a general member or a safety member, and then we have multiple different tiers in each membership. But more importantly, we look at these three characteristics. So we look at your age of retirement, we look at your years of service, or what we call service credit, or salary, or what we call final average compensation. So we look at those three factors there to help calculate what you'll get from us every month for the rest of your life. And then depending on the option that you select when you retire, your beneficiary will be directly impacted and could receive a percentage of your benefit every month for the rest of their lifetime, or they may receive something else. Now, in order for a member to receive a lifetime benefit from us, you do need to be at least vested in the plan in order to get some type of benefit. And then also as well, if you are in tiers 1 through 3, there's also a cost of living adjustment to your benefit for retirement purposes. Let's see. And the next thing here. Okay, so I wanted to just touch upon this because I don't know if a lot of people in this webinar are newer. I mean, they could be a mixture of both newer employees that have been here for a while or not, but this is an integral part of your retirement plan, is investing. So in order to get some type of a lifetime benefit that I talked about on the previous slide, you do need to be vested in the plan with at least 5 years of service. So once you hit that 5-year mark, you're fully vested in the plan. So then once you're vested, you are entitled to a lifetime monthly allowance upon retirement eligibility. So it usually means your age. So then that means once you're vested, we then, when you're ready to retire, we look at those factors of age, how many years of service you have, and then your final compensation or your salary. Reciprocity will be considered toward vesting. This is a milestone as a FCERA member. So just remember your 5 years of service is the main point to be vested. That's the main focal point to get started to get some type of benefit from us. Can we print this as a handout to take notes on? Unfortunately, I don't. The Microsoft Live Events doesn't allow me to like attach a document to kind of print the so people can open this PowerPoint. But if you like, I'm going to provide you guys an email address after the presentation. You guys are more than welcome to send me an email, and I can give you a copy of this PDF so you guys can have for your own record. Now, as I mentioned about vesting period, because that's important. These here that you see on the slides here, this is just your an example of your retirement eligibility requirements depending on what tier level and membership class that you're in. Now you can find what tier level and things that you are in a couple of different ways. You can look on your pay stub and find out what tier level you're in, or you can look on our FCERA member portal and it will tell you what tier level you're in as well. Now, just for safety and general members here, general tiers 1 through 4, if you are at age 50 or with 10 years of service, you can retire. At any age with 30 plus years of service, or at any age of at age 70 if you're actively employed with the FCERA plan sponsor, regardless of years of service. And if you are a general tier 5 member, the minimum requirements is age 52 with 5 years of service. Safety tiers has 4 tiers, 1, 2, 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 4 have the same retirement eligibility requirements as general tiers 1 through 4, age 50 with 10 years of service. But safety tier has a little bit special thing is that they can retire at any age as if you have 20 years of service. So I have seen some safety members retire with over 20 years of service before they hit age 50. Now, and then safety tier 5 is age 50 with 5 years of service. So I already see a bunch of questions here, and I see 2 reciprocity questions. I'm not really going to go over reciprocity in a lot of detail during the presentation. I may be able to touch upon that during the questions later after we have a little bit more time. I'm going to mostly focus on the benefit options, but then also how that impacts your beneficiary as well, because that's mainly the theme of today's webinar. But I can also link you to a webinar I constructed about a couple months ago about reciprocity itself as well, so you can have more information about that. Can a sibling be identified as a beneficiary? Can adult children, things like that? Yes, they can, and I will cover that in a little bit here. I will cover that all that stuff in just a minute or so. Wanted to get over the basic qualifications and information about your retirement plan first before we kind of dive into that stuff. So this is all just how you start to accumulate to be eligible for a benefit. Now, here on this page, these are the different retirement options that are available to you when you're ready to retire. Now, depending if you're watching this on your screen, this may be a little tough for you to see all the intricate details. So actually, if you just give me 1 second here, I can actually link you guys, because this same chart is on our website as well, this same chart. So I'm actually going to link you benefit options. I'm going to link you guys in the chat the same thing that you see on your screen here, just in case you want to see it a little bit bigger, because depending on how you're watching it, you may not be able to see it unless I take this full screen, take my face off. So these are the different options that are available to you when you're ready to retire. Now, all these different options use the same formula of your age, years of service, and your final average compensation to calculate your benefit, but in part with today's theme about beneficiaries and stuff, each option provides a different type of benefit to your named beneficiary in the case of your death. So let's go with the first one here, the unmodified option. Now, this unmodified option is the highest benefit that's available to you when you're ready to retire based off those 3 factors I spoke of. Now, what's cool about this option is this option leaves a 60% lifetime continuance to an eligible beneficiary. What that means is If you have an eligible beneficiary that you elect with this option at retirement, and by the way, an eligible beneficiary is a minor child or a spouse. If you have an eligible beneficiary and you select this option, in the case of your death, this leaves a 60% continuance, meaning that beneficiary will get 60% of whatever you are getting every month for the rest of their lifetime. Now, for a spouse, it's for the rest of their lifetime. If it's a minor child, they will get that 60% continuance all the way until they turn 18, or 22 if they are full-time enrolled in an accredited school. Excuse me, a little parched. Okay, so that's for that 60% continuance only works if that beneficiary is considered eligible. So spouse, minor child. Now, a member can select this option if they do not have an eligible beneficiary. So what happens with that is if you select this option and you have a non-eligible beneficiary, they will receive a lump sum of your remaining contributions and interest if there's anything left in your contribution bucket at the time of your death. Now, when members select this unmodified option, that contribution bucket on average runs out within 2 to 3 years. So roughly after about 3 years, there's probably not going to be really anything to really pay out to that beneficiary that's non-eligible. So keep that in mind. And with this option, this is one of the few options that we offer in our plan that allows you to change your beneficiary to after retirement. The next one here is option 1. Now, option 1 provides a reduced benefit. Beneficiary could be anyone. Your lump sum payment. So what this option is, option 1 does not provide any type of a lifetime continuing benefit. This option only pays out a lump sum to your named beneficiary. So this option is usually selected amongst single members that maybe have an adult child as their beneficiary. So what this is, this option takes a little bit of slightly reduced benefit because the unmodified that I spoke of earlier pays out the highest. Every option after that is a reduced benefit to some extent. Your beneficiary can be anyone for this, but your lump sum is paid out to that beneficiary of your remaining contributions and interest. Now, I mentioned with the unmodified option, if you have a non-eligible beneficiary, that contribution bucket lasts anywhere from 2 to 3 years. With the option 1, that contribution bucket lasts anywhere from 15 to 18 years on average. So there would be something to leave a potential beneficiary within that time frame. So usually amongst single members, that's why they kind of take this option here. Now, the last 3 options that I have listed here are options 2, 3, and 4. And I just actually thought about that. I actually have a slide that goes over the beneficiary portions there. So I'm actually going to cover that a little bit more in just a second. But real quickly here, options 2, 3, and 4 will allow you to pick a beneficiary your choice and leave them a continuing lifetime benefit. Now, the beneficiary that you do choose, that beneficiary is set in stone. Once you make that election and start receiving payments, you cannot change your beneficiary at any time. And the bigger your benefit does take a reduced amount. You do take a reduced benefit amount with those options 2, 3, and 4. But how that's determined is we look at who you have listed as your beneficiary, and we look at the age difference between you and that beneficiary that you have listed. The bigger the age difference between you and that beneficiary, the more reduced benefit that you'll take. But as you guys can see on the chart there, it does leave each option does leave a continuing benefit to that beneficiary that you name in some percentage there. And as I mentioned, I did link that in the chat there of this chart, but in more kind of like blown up. That's on our website, so you guys can check that out as well. So something to consider when you guys start planning and preparing your retirement is something that would prepare you for that is utilizing the FCERA member portal. The FCERA member portal is something that I recommend everybody use. And okay, so I see a lot of questions about like the options and stuff. I'm going to run through this stuff real quick, and then I will answer everybody's questions in succession because most of the questions I'm seeing in the chat right now are relatively all together. They're kind of like all can be piggybacked off each other. So I'm going to kind of go through that and go through this real quick because I only have a couple more slides, and then I will go over that with you. But feel free to keep posting your questions in there, and I'm going to get through them. So anyways, utilizing the FCERA member portal is probably one of your best ways to help prepare for retirement. That member portal is on our website. If you have not registered yet, you will need a unique identifier. How you can get that unique identifier to complete your registration? Well, there's two ways you can do that. You can give a call to our office, or you can send us an email with your work email to our email address, which I'll have linked at the end of this presentation. Send us an email there. We can get you that number to help you register. That portal is going to provide you a ton of different retirement options there. It will give you allow you to look at all your information. So for the first thing there, you can view your beneficiary information, which is mostly the theme of today's webinar. You can calculate your retirement benefit estimates, which is great. So you can see, hey, I plan on retiring in about 5 years. What am I looking at? What's my estimate of what I'm looking at? So it'll give you an estimate of what that amount is, but it will also break down all the different options that are available to you. And it'll also show what your beneficiaries potentially could earn from that. So you can also look at your contribution balance, finding out how much you've contributed so far, what you should be contributing per pay period, and so much more. So I can't stress this enough. This is probably one of your best financial planning tools for your FCERA benefit. I recommend everybody register for this if you have not. This is a great way to kind of see where you stand and kind of start planning. And before anybody probably asks this as well in the chat, because we do get this a lot of people do ask us, hey, how accurate is this member portal? I heard it's not very accurate. Well, it is accurate. The numbers are being pulled from our pension software, and we get all that information from the county. So it's pretty accurate. Now, granted, it's still considered an estimate because your file hasn't been audited and will be audited when you come in to meet with the retirement specialist at retirement. But it's a pretty good indicator of what's going on to have an idea of how to start planning and what to look at. Okay, so the last few slides here, this is kind of what we're talking about today, being prepared, what the pension plan offers as far as to your beneficiaries. So I want to kind of touch upon a couple of things first here. So the first thing, what I want to touch upon is death benefits before retirement, because, you know, obviously this is a subject we don't want to really like talk about a lot, but there are a lot of options for your beneficiaries if something were to happen to you while you're actively employed. So on this slide here that you see, we're going to go over the options of what your beneficiary could receive if you were already vested in the plan with 5 years of service. So if you are vested with 5 years of service and something happens to you, you do have options here. So you have 3 options. So option 1, it could be any beneficiary that you listed. So it could be spouse, child, adult child, friend, sibling, whatever that may be. So if you have one of those beneficiaries and that beneficiary elected option 1, they would get a return of your employee contributions and interest. So whatever you put into the plan as an up to your last pay period, and any interest that those contributions have earned, you earn interest on your contributions in twice a year, December 31st and June 30th. Wow, I said that backwards. Sorry, should have went forward, but you guys get the idea. And then you can get up to 6 months. The beneficiary can get up to 6 months of an employee salary. Now, the next 2 options, 2 and 3, these options are only available to a qualified beneficiary, and a qualified beneficiary is a surviving spouse or a minor child. So and I put that little asterisk right there. So option 2 is to a qualified beneficiary only, is a monthly survivor's allowance benefit. So they can get a lifetime benefit, almost like a survivor's continuance benefit. Option 3, very similar to option 2, except the beneficiary takes a reduced survivor allowance benefit, but also receives up to 6 months of employee salary. Now keep in mind, these 2 options here are strictly for only qualified beneficiaries, which is a spouse or a minor child. If you have someone that's listed there as your beneficiary that does not meet that qualification, then that beneficiary would be eligible for that option 1 only, which is the refund of contributions and your contributions and interest, and up to 6 months of your salary. So these are death benefits if the member is vested in the plan with at least 5 years of service. They're not clicking. Okay, here we go. Now, this slide here is benefits to the member if they are not vested, so they have less than 5 years of service. So if you're an active employee, so if you're currently working and something happens to you and you're not vested, your beneficiary that we have on file is only eligible for the return of your contributions that you put into the plan plus interest and up to 6 months of your salary. So that's only for that. Does not matter if that beneficiary is qualified or not. So if you're a deferred member, which deferred means in this instance that you've terminated employment and left your money in the FCERA system, that deferred member passes away, their beneficiary is only eligible for the return of the employee contributions and interest. And then we also have two other types of death benefits: non-service connected death. So member must be at least vested with 5 years of service. Spouse or minor child must be the beneficiary to receive a 60% continuance. The service-connected death, unfortunately, that does happen sometimes, does not need to be vested with 5 years of service. The spouse or minor child must be the beneficiary to receive a 100% service-connected death retirement benefit or service retirement, whichever is greater. So these are more or less what happens if these are more or less death benefits for active deferred members. These are a little different, as you can see, compared to if you're retired, what happens by selecting an option. Now, death benefits, naming your beneficiary. I can't stress this enough. This is super important. One of the biggest things to get out of this whole presentation is that the death benefits, any type of benefit is paid out to your beneficiary. So all the last previous two slides when I talked about active members and deferred members and things of that nature right there, we will pay out anything that we will pay. If there's anything to be paid out to your account, let me rephrase myself. If there's anything to be paid out to your account, if something were to happen to you, we pay that out to your designated beneficiary. So it's important to make sure that you keep your beneficiary up to date with us. That's so vital. That's such a vital thing in the planning process. Your beneficiary can be anyone, and benefits are available if you're vested, non-vested, active, deferred, retired, things of that nature. Updating your beneficiary with your employer does not mean it's automatically updated with us. If you update it with HR, they don't share that information with us. So you have to fill out and change your beneficiary with us directly. So you can actually do that on our website. You can go to our website and you can print out a beneficiary designation form or change of beneficiary. You can fill that out and either submit that by mail or drop it off, and we can update your beneficiary for you. Like I mentioned, the member portal will also allow you to check who you have as your beneficiary. If you don't have access to the member portal, that's okay. You can also give us a call to our office and we can tell you who you have listed as your beneficiary to see if you need to update that as well. So I can't stress enough, that's super important to just check your beneficiary, because to be honest with you all, a lot of employees that have been here, let's say maybe 5-10 years, maybe even longer than that, you may not have updated your beneficiary since when you first got hired, and life stuff has happened. Maybe you got married, things like that. You just got to make sure, you might want to check on that just to make sure that if there are changes that you need to do so. So just, you might want to look into that and see and make sure that your beneficiary is up to date. Now, this is kind of a recap of that benefits slide that I provided a little earlier, but these are just the benefits for your beneficiary off the different options that are available to you at retirement. So unmodified option leaves a 60% continuance to an eligible beneficiary, which is a spouse or a minor child. Non-eligible beneficiary, so if you're not a spouse or minor child and the member selects the unmodified option, it's a refund of remaining contributions and interest if there's any at the time of death. Option 1 is a refund of remaining contributions if there is still any contributions left at the time of death. Option 2 provides a 100% continuance to your named beneficiary. Option 3 provides a 50% continuance to your named beneficiary. So there's all these different options available to you when you're ready to retire. It's a matter of what fits best for you and your future, what's your beneficiary, who you're going to elect as your beneficiary. So these are things to think about when planning. So how to prepare. So that's the title of today's webinar, right? Prepare today. Well, how could you get started? The first couple things that I could tell you personally that came to my mind is understand your retirement benefit. Understand how that works, how everything works. Do you know what tier you're in? Do you know what membership class you're in? Have you used the member portal before or registered? Do you have an idea of when you want to start or when you want to retire? Things like this, understanding and thinking about all these different things can help the wheels in your brain in turn. And then you can start thinking, okay, well, I'm 45 now. I plan on working till I'm 65. So let's look at my benefit at 65 and see what estimated that's going to be. Who would be my potential beneficiary? If I'm married, it would probably be my spouse. But then what options would suit best for that? Looking at your other finances, things like that. So understanding your retirement benefit is just one part of it. Keeping your beneficiary up to date. Like I mentioned on the previous slide, I can't stress this enough. Make sure that you checked who we have listed as your beneficiary, because if something happens to you, we go based off of that. So we need to make sure that your beneficiary is up to date. Like I mentioned, on our website, you can fill out a beneficiary change form, print that out, sign it, mail it, or drop it off, and we can send it to our office and we can update that for you. You can check who your beneficiary is on the member portal, or you can call our office and we can let you and give you that information. Ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. There's no such thing. I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as a stupid question, especially when it pertains to your retirement and something like this. Ask questions early and often. If you have questions, call our office, email us. That's what we're here for. We want to help you. We want you to understand your benefits and give you the best information for it so you can make the best decision for you. Plan and discuss your options early. So yeah, there may be some people in this webinar today that are like, hey, I've only been here like 3 years. I'm only like 35. I'm not going to retire for 30 years. Well, you can still think about stuff. Plan ahead. Just look at all these different things. You may not have to plan everything out to a T, but at least start looking at it, because honestly, it's going to come up faster than you think. It's going to fly by like this. Look, we're already it's going to be October of 2021 in a couple of days. How fast is this year gone by already? It just flies like that. So plan and discuss options early with your beneficiaries and and whoever you have involved with that. So that brings me to basically the end of like what I wanted to talk to you guys about, what I wanted to hit on. So this is just our last page. Here's our contact information. So contact our office for any questions. If we have anybody in the chat that's looking to retire in the near future, if you have a retirement date picked out, you can call our office 90 days prior to that retirement date to schedule an appointment. Our mailing address is on there, 7772 North Palm Avenue. Our office is open from 9 to 12 and 1 to 5. If you're dropping off documents and you can't make it between those times, we do have a drop box outside that you can drop those documents in. Our phone number there, email. So that's another good one right there. If you have questions, and you can always send an email. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, go ahead and you can send an email to that too. That's perfectly fine. And then visit our website, FresnoCountyRetirement.org. We have a ton of information on there. We are constantly updating. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with some of the webinars I've done in the past couple of months that we either do during the lunch hour or sometimes during the workday. Be on the lookout for those too. We're going to be putting out more content like this, so we get that information out to you that's accessible to you, so you guys can have all this information to absorb and make the best decisions for your future. So with that being said, that's really it for my portion of the presentation, and I met that 30-minute mark, which was my goal. So now I can just answer any questions that you have, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have to the best of my ability. If I can't answer those questions, we can push those forward. We can get an answer to you, and later on. So if I can't answer your question today, I do apologize, but we can get that answer to you. So let's see. The first one: can we roll over our time and sick vacation to our pension prior to retirement? So that's a question that we don't answer. HR, employee benefits, handles your annual leave hours. More so than none, your annual leave hours are cashed out to you in your last check. They are not rolled over to retirement for years of service credit. If you have hours on the time off bank, those hours can be rolled over because they have no cash value, but it doesn't apply to everyone. I recommend talking to employee benefits and finding out what kind of annual leave plan that you're in, because there are multiple annual leave plans in the county. So I would recommend contacting them and finding out what annual leave plan that you're in, and if any of those hours apply to retirement to be rolled over. Now, how that works also is, let's say that you do have some hours that can be rolled over to retirement. Well, what happens is after you retire, about maybe 2 weeks or so after, we get a form from employee benefits that shows us your record of all your hours and everything. On that paper, it'll tell us how many hours. Say John Smith has 10 hours to use for service credit. Okay, so then we make that adjustment to your benefit with those 10 hours included. We make that adjustment to your benefit, and you will probably get that, and you will get that adjustment seen on your retirement benefit within your 3rd month of receiving payments from us. So it doesn't go on your first check, but it usually turns around on the 3rd if there's any adjustments that we make to your benefit. Can you identify a number of beneficiaries 6+? I'm very okay. So can you identify a number of beneficiaries 6+? I'm not sure how to answer this question. I'm assuming that this question refers to basically if I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say, can you have more than 6 beneficiaries? You can. You just need to make sure that you need to make sure that each beneficiary has a percentage allocated to each one that adds up to 100%. So how does payout differ from unmodified in option 1? The chart says it's a lump sum payout of contributions and interest. Wouldn't that be the same for both? So no, not necessarily. So the unmodified and option 1 are different. So the difference between the two. Unmodified option is your highest benefit that you can get based off of your age, years of service, and your final average compensation, the same 3 factors that we use to calculate your formula. Well, that option also pays out a continuing benefit of 60% to an eligible beneficiary. Option 1, they use the same formula, but the benefit is slightly reduced. But since it doesn't leave a continuing lifetime benefit, option 1 leaves a remaining balance of your lump sum contributions to your named beneficiary. But that option 1 uses up your contributions at a slower rate because it doesn't provide a continuing lifetime benefit to your eligible beneficiary. So because it uses up your contribution bucket at a slower rate, there's a longer chance for that bucket to last compared to 2 to 3 years for the unmodified for a non-eligible beneficiary, and then option 1 anywhere from 15 to 18 on average. Okay, so does the beneficiary issue change when your spouse is also a county employee? Does that affect anything? No, it does not. So, because I personally have retired county employees, married county employees. No, it does not. It's as long as when you're ready to sign the paperwork and you sign the paperwork and it says, hey, my spouse is my beneficiary, they are able to have the same type of benefit as a beneficiary and vice versa. Can retirees work at IHSS, or is it a conflict of interest? I actually don't have the answer for that one. I will be completely honest with you. I don't have the answer to that. That's a question that you can call our office or send us an email and we can get that back to you. I apologize. That's an answer I do not have, and I don't want to take a stab at it. Let's see. Please send me a copy of the presentation. Easiest way to do that is just email right there, FCERA@FresnoCountyCA.gov, and I can send you a PDF copy of the presentation later today. I am also confused as to how Social Security plays a part in our retirement. Do we get separate check from Social Security outside of what is shown on the FCERA website retirement amount? That's a fantastic question. So yes, your Social Security benefit and your FCERA benefit payments are 2 separate things. So when you draw your FCERA benefit, you can also draw your Social Security benefit you know, and you'll get 2 separate checks. They're not lumped into one. Good question. Is the amount on the employee portal the amount I contributed only? That is correct. It does not include the county's contribution. It's only your contributions. Can you have multiple number of beneficiaries? Yes, you can. You can have multiple number of beneficiaries. The big thing with that is you need to make sure that the amount of beneficiaries that you do put on there, you need to list a percentage allocation to each one. You need to make sure that if you're going to say, hey, I have 4 beneficiaries, if you want to make them 25% each, you need to make sure that's allocated. The percentage allocation needs to make sure it adds up to 100%. That's vital. Let's see. Okay, so I know it says I've answered this, but I'm just going to answer it again for people just in case. So I had a question, can there be more than 1 beneficiary to total the sum of the continuance? No, if I'm understanding that question correctly. So you can't have 2 people there to get 1 continuance. Only in option 4 allows you to do that, which is a customized actuarial calculation, but that's a little bit more detailed and that doesn't really happen that often. On the unmodified option, your spouse continues to receive 60% of your pension for the rest of their lifetime. Doesn't matter how much money you have in your pension at the time of retirement. So, okay. All right, so I'm assuming then, okay, so this question, I'm assuming means, well, if my spouse is going to get 60%, does it matter how much contributions that I have in the plan at the time of retirement? It doesn't. This plan is different than a typical 401k, 457 IRA plan. Those are what we call defined contribution plans. Defined benefit plan is formula driven. So it is based off of your age, years of service, and final compensation. The contributions that you have in your bucket at the time of retirement do not pertain to you. It does not factor into that. What if an unfortunate event happens to your beneficiary or beneficiaries? Is there a lump sum paid out to somebody else? So if something happens to your beneficiaries, we do have like a tree, a hierarchy, or like, I don't know what we call it. We have like next of, I guess next of kin is probably the best way I can explain it. We go down the line of next of kin to see who else is left. If there is one that's applicable, and we go down that list if the beneficiaries have predeceased the member. If we want to cash out annual leave, how much are we taxed? That's a question I can't answer. You'll need to talk to employee benefits about that. I cannot answer that question. Does the remaining contributions and interest include county contributions or just personal? Personal, not county. Okay, so how and where do the employer county contributions fit into all figuring out where, figuring out where, hold on, I gotta read that one more time. So how or where do the employer county contributions rates fit into all the figuring out we're all supposed to be doing? Okay, I'm gonna see if I can answer that. So basically, everybody is a member of FCERA, starting with their first day of their second pay period. So I'm gonna imagine a lot of you have noticed that you contribute to retirement on a bi-weekly pay period. I would imagine that you've all noticed that, right? You're contributing in a bi-weekly pay period. So those contributions that you contribute, the county also contributes on your behalf as well. So all this money goes into this pool, and I wish I had my chart here. You know what? Hold on. Just because you guys said that, give me a second here. Let me pull up something for you guys. Pull up something. There was something from my webinar that I did last week here. So give me a second. Give me a second. Let me pull this up for you guys. Let me pull this up. Stop sharing. Share. All right, here we go. Okay, so this isn't in the PowerPoint presentation that I talked about today, but this is just pertaining to the question. So You are contributing into retirement on a biweekly pay period basis. So we're at the top there, remember? Employer contributions are also coming in. Those are all going into the FCERA fund. Then the FCERA fund is being used to invest into investments, and we earn earnings and interest on those investments. So those earnings and interest that we get, they get siphoned back to the FCERA fund. That FCERA fund is what helps pay for our lifetime benefit, for everybody's lifetime benefit. That's really it in a nutshell. I could spend an hour talking about that, but that's a lot of discussion that's not as much relevant to today's conversation. So let me go back over here. See, can a business be a beneficiary? No, cannot. Okay, so let's see here. It looks like I have gone through all the questions so far, so we do have a little bit more time if you have any other questions here. Okay, so how stable or secure are retirement funds for Fresno County employees? I recall Stanislaus or Stockton had a problem with their retirement and went bankrupt, leaving retirees without benefits. So I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I have to probably research that and let you know. But I believe that last time I checked, we were over 70% funded. But that number's a shot in the dark. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, so I would have to research that and get back to you. I can't answer that in 100% confidence. How can I see how much county has contributed toward my pension? I can't answer that right now at the moment either without getting more information for you, but it's almost like a 3-to-1 looking at that way. These are good questions, though. These are good questions. Okay, so the amount the employer contributes doesn't go directly to each one of us, only to the big bucket that we're receiving a pension off of. That's correct, yes. In a nutshell, yes, that's the Cliff Notes version of it, yes. If we have a 401k, can we roll it over to FCERA? No, unfortunately you can't roll over any 401k or any other type of retirement plans into to our defined benefit plan, but you can roll it over into deferred comp, our nationwide 457 supplemental plan. So if you have that or you want to roll into that, you can actually roll that over into that. Let's see here. If married, can you have someone else as the beneficiary other than your spouse? That's a fantastic question. That's the question I was waiting to see if someone was going to ask. Yes, you actually can. You actually can have someone else that's not your spouse. That you can actually have someone else that's not your spouse be the beneficiary. But there is a catch. So if you want to do that, let's say that you want to elect option 2, which leaves 100% continuance to a beneficiary of your choice, but you have a spouse. Your spouse can sign a notarized waiver waiving the right to a continuing benefit, and then you can name your new beneficiary. The spouse does have to sign off on a notarized waiver, but that can happen. Thank you, I appreciate that. If I'm planning on retiring within the next 5 years with over 30 years of service, when should I contact FCERA to start discussing what to do? So if you're looking to start the process of actually retirement and getting that information, signing the paperwork, all that stuff, you can contact us from 90 days prior to the retirement date that you choose. And then a retirement specialist will schedule an appointment with you to get that process going. Now, if you have just generalized questions about your retirement and things like that, you can always contact our office by phone or email, and you can talk to a retirement specialist. They can answer your individual questions that you do have. Okay. Those were some really good questions. Those were really good questions. Okay, so let's see here. We still have a little bit more time if there's any other questions. If you guys don't have any other, if there's other people that are here watching, you guys don't have any other questions, feel free to go enjoy the rest of your lunch. But if you have any other questions, just fire away. Also, I forgot to mention this too. If you don't have any questions, or if you have a question but you don't necessarily want to put it in the chat, that's okay. Just send us an email, give us a phone call. We'll be happy to help that way too. If my minor son is the beneficiary and something happens to me, is there a guarantee that he will get the money owed to him and my ex-husband won't take it? So that's a loaded question. That is a loaded question. So that determines on two things. So that determines if that divorce, your ex-husband, if this divorce was happening, if that divorce occurred during your employment with the county. If it did, we need to see a copy of your divorce documents and have our divorce unit review those. Because if there's something in the divorce decree that does allow your ex-spouse to have some type of entitlement to your retirement benefits, that may be an issue. So that is a question that it depends on the situation on when that occurred and things like that. Normally, no, if that would not happen, but in the case that divorce did occur during service, then we have to look at the divorce documents first prior to making any type of jurisdiction about how we can go about that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. No, that's what we're here for. We want to give as much information to you guys as possible to help you make the best informed decisions. So no, I'm happy to help in any way. I'm glad that you guys found these things informational. That's what we're here for. And I already see a lot of people emailing me about unique identifiers, so that's really good. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that you guys are wanting to log into the portal and everything. So I'll get to those in a little bit. Yes, your grandchild can be your beneficiary. Your beneficiary can be anyone. Your beneficiary can be anyone. What type of account do my beneficiaries need to open to have the benefit deposited into? The inheritance type? So no, not necessarily. No, usually the beneficiaries that we do work with, you just provide us banking information and we can make that transfer, we can make that direct deposited every month if you'd like to. So you more than welcome to provide that information. So we, what was I going to say? I was going to give you an example of stuff that I personally experienced. Normally, when I've dealt with paying out benefits to beneficiaries, it's like a spouse. So usually, hey, it is a continuing benefit that they provide us the banking information. We make that direct deposit happen. If it's a continuing benefit where that beneficiary is getting a lifetime benefit from us, we ask for banking information. If it's a one-time payment of your remaining contributions and interest from the member, we send out a check. We don't direct deposit that. So it's a check that's sent out to you. It might be helpful to do a walkthrough on how to use the FCERA to calculate the estimate of retirement benefit. I'm glad you read my mind because that's coming. I'm working on that as we speak. I'm constructing a presentation for that. It's just going to take a little time, but I'm constructing something, so it'll be on the lookout for that. Let's see here. $3 to your $1 is what I mean, 3 to 1, but don't quote me on that. That's a rough estimate. I have to get the actual numbers in and have to do the research, so I definitely don't want to give you wrong information, but that was just a stab in the dark there. Okay, so this is a good question. So how does FCERA determine or identify the death of a beneficiary? Well, death certificate is one. That's one way we confirm it. We do have software that can confirm that as well. We do our due diligence first before we pay out any type of benefit to a beneficiary or next of kin. We do have a process that a retirement specialist go through to determine all that. So it does take a little time. We try to get that wrapped up, especially if it's a continuing benefit. We do try to get that wrapped up as fast as we can, but it can take some time. If we have a longer than 6-month break between FCERA and reciprocal agencies, how does that impact our vesting? Well, so how that's going to impact your vesting is if reciprocity is not established, you need to have 5 years of service in the current employer to be vested. You cannot take advantage of the reciprocal properties if reciprocity has not been established, especially if there's been a 6. Well, if we wait, hold on, let me read that again. Maybe I want to make sure I understand that. If we have a longer than 6-month break between FCERA or reciprocal agencies. So I'm going to take the first part first before touching on that reciprocal part. If we have a longer than 6 month break between FCERA, so meaning that and this is an assumption that you leave a FCERA plan sponsor, and then let's say you have a 6 month break and they get rehired back. If you've left your contributions on deposit, and let's say you left your money on deposit and you left the first time with 2 years of service, when you get rehired back and become a member, you start with 2 years of service again rather than starting at 0. Now, reciprocal agencies is a little different. If there's no link established, you cannot utilize the reciprocal properties of having both years of service added to make you eligible and vested. So then you have to work 5 years. But that's a really open-ended question. I know sometimes it's hard to interpret the question that you're asking sometimes through chat. So if you want further details and stuff, give a call to our office and speak to a specialist. They'll be able to help you out with that. If I am married but I have my mom listed as the beneficiary, does my husband still need to sign the waiver? Absolutely. So California law states that if you are married, your spouse removes anyone as your primary beneficiary. Your spouse is the number one. So if you are married, your spouse does have to sign the waiver, regardless if you've listed that person, your mother, as the beneficiary, because of California law. Let's see, and how to calculate the calculator and identify what the numbers mean and how much. Okay, so I'm imagining this is just to coincide with that member portal thing. The member portal training thing is going to come. We're working on it, so it's coming. Okay, so wow, you guys had some pretty good questions there. We have just a couple more minutes if there's any more questions, but if not, if you don't get a chance to ask your question or not, feel free to send us an email, give us a call. That's what we're here for. We'll answer. We can answer these questions for you. It doesn't have to be all here in this webinar, but if you have questions you think of later on, give us a call, send us an email. That's what we're here for. We can answer anything. We can answer the question as best as we can and get you the answer that we need. If we don't know, we definitely will research, call you back, and let you know. Okay, well, I haven't seen any question recently here. So, like I mentioned, that's really it for the webinar. If there's no more questions, or if you don't have any questions, you guys are free to go. Enjoy the last few minutes of your lunch. If you have any more questions, just fire away. You got a couple more minutes. If not, thank you guys for checking out the webinar this afternoon. Thank you to HR for letting me be a part of this prepare today. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to give out information and help the membership out with retirement. So let's see. With that, I don't see any other questions. Okay, so it looks like we probably answered them all. Let's see. Hold on, let's see. Give it another minute here just to see if there's any. Oh, never mind. Okay, hold on. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know it's a lot of information to cover there's a lot of information to cover in the span of an hour. So I try to do the best I can. We definitely are going to be doing more webinars in the future. How can I obtain the unique identifier? So send us an email to facera@fresnocountyca.gov with your work email, or give us a phone call. So the email has to be sent from your work email. It cannot be a personal email account. It has to be sent from your work account to obtain that unique ID. Okay. All right. Well, that looks like. Oh, okay. Here we go. Is it good there? So there are so many that we can absorb. Yes. Okay. Yes, you're automatically enrolled. Now I do see that you posted as anonymous. So what you can do, because normally a lot of people sign in with their name for teams. just to make sure that you're included, send me an email to FCERA@Fresno County CEA. I can make sure that you're on that list. Okay. Just make sure you send me that email, preferably pretty soon, as soon as you can. So that way I can just ensure that your name is on the list. Okay. All right. See. No problem. My pleasure. I appreciate you checking it out this afternoon. Hopefully it was a lot of good, useful information. It's hard to try to cram all this information in a span of an hour. So, but I'm glad that you found it useful. Okay. So I think that's going to be it then. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys again for hanging out, checking out the webinar, asking these questions. If you want a copy of the presentation, send an email to there. To FCERA@FresnoCountyCA.gov. If you have any other questions, feel free to call us, email us, things like that. Do we email you directly or the FCERA email? Honestly, you can email. You can do either one. You can do either one. That's fine. I'm the one that checks the FCERA mail too, so you can email me directly or the FCERA mail. Either one works for me. Okay. Got it. Okay, great. Well, all right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you guys again for being here. Just make sure that you if you have any questions, feel free to email us, give us a call. Enjoy the rest of the week, and see you guys all later.